right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, it's not just one little thing, right?
And then you drink a Coke with it. And you just added like
because
25 grams, 30, 50 grams. I don't know how much sugar in there.
and everything else that's wrong with that as well. On top of that, right? That's just those calories, but everything else from a health aspect, right? Like those drinks absolutely destroy your gut.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like it's like they're cleaners, so right? They just absolutely destroy your gut, right? So it's one thing again, a one-off, right? I never tell anybody don't ever have anything. Right, because that's just not realistic, right? It's not practical, and it's just we don't need to live a life where we can never have any. Like I love desserts, I love cheesecake and so forth, but there's a time and place for it, right? There is a time and place for having certain things, right? Like I go to family's house if they have, I'm like, all right, like for dessert specifically, I always say be a dessert snob. Because I'm like, if you're going to be taking in those calories, it better be good.
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
there's certain families' house, I know I'm eating everything because you know that they give certain like aunts and or like cousins, you know they're like amazing cooks and you know everything they're going to be making. Or you have like a specific cousin, you know she's a really good dessert, really good at desserts. You're like, all right, she's making it. I don't care what it is, I'm eating it because you always know it's really good. That's different. But if you show up to everywhere and they're like, what do they have? They have kheer. Like, oh, okay, like basic. You know, nothing to it. It just, you know, and like, all right, just fill up a bowl. Like, why? You're just doing it just because, right? And just adding all these extra calories for no reason. You didn't even enjoy it, right? The worst thing to do is like, at least if you could turn around and be like, oh, that was pretty good though. I feel guilty about it, but it was pretty good.
How do you, like, I always tell people like one of the biggest things you can do is like if you're eating, let's say biryani and you're eating all of these foods that you love, just cut the dessert out. Like it's a very easy to switch to make because at the end of the meal, you're kind of full anyway. So you're not.
Yeah.
And if you just make that cut,
one thing I've realized over the years is that one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people like to add why desserts is so big in our community after we eat is because of how spicy our food is as well, right? That you almost need, and same thing with Coke or any pop that we drink is because you know you need to almost like feel like you're pushing everything down, it feels like, right? But like, mind you, like I love spicy, like all my food has to be extra spicy. Like I'm big on that, right? But again, it just, but I won't always have something sweet afterwards, but that just takes time to be able to go through that, right? And to be able to evolve to a point where you can be okay with not having it. But if you really need to have a date, if you want, or have some fruits if you want, right? They'll still add, they're not going to be ridiculous in calories, right? But mind you, again, same thing. If it's once a week, you know, you're meeting your family, then it's fine. Enjoy yourself. One meal is not going to destroy your entire weeks, right? You're not losing all your results because of one meal. Right?
Not one day, one meal.
One meal, yeah, not one day, one meal. That's really important, right? And then leading up to it is really easy too, right? So for example, you know, skip breakfast that day. Like for example, if you know every Saturday we have like a family gathering, for example, right? Saturday, skip your breakfast, right? If you do have anything, stick to protein and veggies, right? So make a salad and have some, I don't know, cook some chicken or steak or whatever. Have that on the side, and then you know, go for a run or do a workout, do something active, right? And then go to their house, and then that way you're already significantly below your caloric intake for the day anyways now, so you're good, right, going into it.
So while maintaining our ethnic foods and a lot of the foods that we love and allowing people to eat that or continue eating that, how can they make smarter dietary choices?
Sorry, say it again.
While you maintain you know, your ethnic foods, so you have your favorite ethnic foods, people like eating their daily rotis and curries, or maybe, you know, various Arabic cuisines, or if you're wherever you're from and you love your ethnic food, and certain ethnic foods might not be necessarily the best for your health, how can you still make smarter dietary choices while maintaining that?
So it depends. You'll be shocked. The vast majority of certain choices, I think people already know, right? Like for example, rice you can have, bread you can have, right? Just your quantity that you should be having, right? Like for example, if someone has like, you know, in like India, Pakistan, we call paratha, right? One is like around 80, 90 grams of carbohydrates. That's a lot of carbohydrates for an average person, right? So you cut that in half. But who can eat half a paratha realistically? That's not like, because I can't do that. I need the whole thing, right?
That's right.
Or let alone one, right? So then the thing is, okay, is there a better substitution for me to be able to have? Right, and there are other substitutions you can go for, bread that isn't as high in carbohydrates and so forth, right? And then same thing with anything else that you're for the same thing with rice and so forth, right? For example, when you go out to eat, the vast majority of, like, say if you go to like Afghan or if you go like Arab like shawarma type joints, as amazing as they are, a lot of times in their rice they put sugar. They'll put like molasses, or they'll put sugar. Molasses, the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not just having rice now, right? So people are like, well, I'll just have a small amount of rice, and people don't know that, right? A lot
That's
of
right,
people don't
yeah.
realize that, right? And so a friend of mine didn't believe me, so I asked. I'm like, you guys put. So I asked at the restaurant that we're. I'm like, you guys put sugar in your? So they're like, yeah, we just put a little bit. I'm like, what? That's not a measuring thing,
little
right?
bit, you
It's
don't
like a
know
little
what
bit. It's like when like Desi aunties say like, I just put a little bit of oil. It's like the whole thing's being emptied, right? It's like that's not a measuring thing, right?
That's right.
So that's the one thing. It's like understanding those elements that plays a part, and then it's just accepting that there are certain things that you'll have to add alternates to.
Are there certain things that you just cut out completely? Certain junk food or certain food groups?